All right, looks like we have all of you in the hall. Welcome back. How was your networking session? Good? Yes, I still see a lot of conversation happening there. Without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's move on to our next session and our panelists on board. First up, I would like to go ahead and welcome Sharmila on stage. Can we have a huge round of applause for her, Director of Accounts and Management at Sirva. And we met Padmaja a little while, but yes, give a huge round of applause for Padmaja there, the Global Mobility Manager for Unilever. And we have Peggy taking it over. Can we have a huge round of applause for her? Really loud. She'll finish the session very fast for you guys. With that, over to all of you. But at the end of the session, we are also going to have a Q&A. So I hope all of you jot down their questions. Over to you.
Thank you. So everyone can hear me clear? Okay. So thank you for coming back and joining us in this panel. So this panel, we have two experts who are going to really share with you about challenges that they are seeing, and we're going to find out how they are going to really address all the challenges and navigate into a winning mobility programs. So we are going to just get started. We'll make sure that we give you some time to ask questions. Let's really welcome Sharmila. Maybe you can start by giving a brief introductions about yourself to the audience.
Thank you, Peggy. Hi, everyone. Good morning. Welcome back and namaskar. I'm Sharmila Ragoovaran from Sirva, the Director of Account Management. I've been in the mobility industry for close to 2 decades now. I've been part of the operation function, account management, and also crisis management. So I'm excited to be here to meet all of you. Obviously, some familiar faces like Mukta and the rest of you. Thank you.
For you.
Hello, everyone. Well, not like Sharmila. I'm a baby in the global mobility industry, but nevertheless not a baby in the HR area. So my name is Padmaja. I come with a very strong HR background, very new to global mobility, about 6 to 8 months. But of course, there are very, very strong correlations in what we do in the HR versus global mobility. In fact, I was talking to Mukta some time back and I said, why do we call it as global mobility? It is actually international HR, right? You're managing everything about an employee from the international global perspective. Yeah, in terms of that's my background. Personally, I'm married. I live in Bangalore. Love travel. Probably one of the reasons why I came to global mobility. An adventure sport enthusiast, a runner, and a marathoner. Also love to trek. Yeah, so that's me.
Thank you. Dr. Padmaja, maybe let's get started from you. You know, that you have wealth of knowledge and experience in leading the HR functions. We'll be interested to really hear from you, generally speaking. What do you think the role of global mobility in talent development?
That's a very brilliant question, Peggy. Thank you so much for that. I personally think that talent development is something that organizations think is very job driven. But when you make talent decisions and you're looking at international talent, it is a core of forming HR strategies. Involving global mobility teams out there is extremely crucial. I think there is a huge opportunity for the business to partner with global mobility right in the beginning of making decisions. That's a trend I think is picking up. In Unilever, we already do that. We have global mobility people partners who work very closely with the HR community, with the HR VPs, right at the beginning of when they want to make any talent decisions. And this is primarily with the fact that earlier, and that's my impression, and I can tell you when I took up a role in global mobility, I was asked questions by my colleagues and friends from the past. Why are you taking up an administrative role? What is it in store for you for future? Right? And that did not hold me back. I'm not boasting, but I think there is so much to do in terms of partnering, in terms of making a difference. Being reactive was for the past. I think there is so much that we can do futuristically, think about how we can change policies, how we can make sure the program is futuristic. Cost, of course, Mukta and Prasanna and Ravi have covered. But there is a lot more to do in this space. Yeah, I think that's, we'll hand over to you, Sharmila, if you have any views to add on there.
Yeah, I think, thank you very much, Padmaja. I think what we do see from a RMC perspective is in recent times, thanks to COVID, professionals have seen macro trend changes due to COVID-19 and geopolitical reason. So this has actually made a seat for the global mobility professions to be, acquiring a seat with the business. Quite often in the past, they seem to see global mobility very transactional. So now a lot of businesses, a lot of functions are starting to partner with global mobility, before they even pursue anything for a specific organization. So I think that's a key shift that we are seeing from an RMC perspective. Of course, there is a long way to go, like what Padmaja has just mentioned, but at least getting that seat, being able to voice out your perspective, the values that you're going to be bringing to the business, it's a big win from my perspective. Having said that, relocation or global mobility, it's not one size it's going to fit everybody, right? It's a very unique program. And quite often in the last decade or so, we have started using employee experience, and we're wanting to be curating experience for all these employees. So what does that mean is flexibility. So a lot of companies have started to understand the importance of bring flexibility, and at the same time adhering to the compliance risks, mitigate whatever challenges that might come. So these are the key two trends that we do see from any size of organization that we work with.
Yeah, thank you. So
yeah, I'd just like to, I'd just like to add on to what Sharmila mentioned. I think flexibility within the global mobility program is such a big thing. Having standard policies saying you're going on an 18-month assignment, these are the benefits that you will get, versus asking the employee to choose. These are the 10 options you have, choose what suits you based on your needs, because we see assignees in different age groups, right? We have senior folks, we have the millennials, and we want people who just want to go for travel. So I think that core flex model, which is going to drive the trend going forward in the global mobility space, I believe, truly believe that.
Right,
Yeah.
thank you. So during our preparations call, I think you were discussing about creating the branding, creating the names of global mobility in organizations. And can you please maybe share with the audience the greater lengths around it?
Absolutely. So like I mentioned, global mobility was very administrative, very reactive in nature. And now that we're moving to a partnering role, there is a sea change of change management that needs to happen within the organizations, right? And one of the key aspects, even for the businesses to start partnering with us, is to make them aware that we are there, we have the knowledge, we have the capabilities to really partner with you, we understand what the business needs. And that requires a sea change of mindset change, the way you talk about global mobility in the organization itself. And therefore, I think changing the name global mobility, it might be really a very wacky thought, but moving away from the administrative name as global mobility, maybe something which is like an international HR partner or something like that will, it'll be the beginning. And building that brand not only within your organization, but even outside, it makes a lot of difference. Right, like I said, when I took up this role in global mobility, I was questioned why it is so administrative. You're just going to be managing people who are moving locations, moving a person from location A to location B. What value is it going to add to you? But when I got into this space, it is so much more than that, right? And like we were discussing with Mukta and the others, you are managing not only the employee's journey, but also his or her family journey, right? So there is so much more to it. That branding perspective, we talk about employer branding, we talk about employee branding, but there is a need for global mobility branding as well, I think so.
So in reality, it's really an ideal world to really make sure that get the recognitions for being strategics in a functions, right? But in reality, what kind of challenge that you have seen so far in order to really seek an alignment between global mobility practices and program versus the human resource strategies?
Oh, okay, that's a very, very interesting question, right? I think, and I come back to the same thing, right? While HR strategies are driven at the top, talent development means you want to give international exposure to your employees. That's at the top of everyone in the organization, be it business, be it HR, be it whoever, right? But when it actually comes to execution, everybody comes to global mobility still with the administrative mindset. We want to move this person in 30 days. Boss, it's not going to happen in 30 days. You need to know what are the considerations under it, right? So how do you really educate the business around it? And that is just one small challenge. I'm sure you guys are far more experienced than I am, but in my very little time in this industry, I've realized there are so many things that the business needs to understand. And probably when I was on the other side of the business, I would have made decisions in the similar way. But now being on this side, I really understand that there is so much more. There are so many considerations from the immigration perspective, from the tax perspective, from moving person from A to B. There is shipping that happens. You know, you need to make decisions on whether this accommodation is suitable for this person, are the schools close by. There are so many other things that you have to look at that, right? Educating the business is probably the baseline where we can start this change. That's my opinion, yeah.
Thank you. So Sharmila, so for your role, you are an expert in relocations management. You really manage a portfolio of clients from the various industries. Do you see the same common landscape as well and same challenge?
Definitely, Peggy. I think everyone is going to agree that that's a big challenge for anybody from the global mobility function. However, what we do see is that is slowly shifting. So global mobility is being given the flexibility, I would say, or they are being actually pulled into the selection of the employee itself. They are being able to ask to give opinion about selection of policies, manage the expectations, manage the exceptions of the program. So they, as a group of the organization, they'll be able to manage the program towards a winning goal for both the business as well as the employee. I think what we are seeing a lot of the landscape changing for some of the companies that I work with, they are definitely engaging the global mobility function a lot more after COVID because, when COVID happened or even when the war happened, everybody were running around trying to find where my employees are. So the first function that they turned to was definitely global mobility because they knew that global mobility would have some form of resources to be able to tell where your employees are. So unfortunately, with all these incidences, it's where the importance of global mobility has been brought to light. But we do see a lot of companies are now starting to engage global mobility. And on the other aspect also, what the global mobility teams are doing is they are definitely educating the business. So they are actually proactively working together with the business. They don't wait for the business to reach out to you. So the global mobility team or the global mobility head, they work together with us, the RMCs, to find out how could they mitigate some of the pain points. So they're bringing a business case to the business, to the organization, to make sure that, okay, we have a solution for you, but you need to be engaging with us in order for you to be able to achieve something. So that shift is happening, but it's happening slowly.
Yeah, which is great news for everybody, isn't it? It's like no longer just an order taking and then, that you are in the time crunch situations as well.
Yeah.
So we talk about like a rush request, a request comes through to say that within 2 weeks, within 3 weeks, we need to move somebody and please make it happen. So do you see that still happening?
Very often, Peggy. I think that time crunch, it's going to happen, and unfortunately, we cannot avoid those with some of the nature of business. But I think what the company or what the organization need to understand is when you give a lead time over a day or two, what could you do, right? So that's directly going to be impacting the employee experience. So we do have a pharmaceutical company. We are managing a domestic program for them. Unfortunately, because of a domestic movement when there is no requirement for visa, so they would come and say, Sirva, could you please do something for this person over the weekend? And you send a request to us over the Friday. So that is still a challenge as much as we would try to expect a lead time of at least 1 week because in order for you to arrange, it might sound it's just logistical, but that's not the truth. You need to be able to understand the requirement of the employee. If they might be coming with a family, you need to do a lot more research to be able to get a property. So I think what I would like to say is, please do engage the RMC company at early stage of any project that you might be working on because I cannot believe that, a project is going to happen and you don't have the lead time and you don't have, information about something that's happening. So it's always important to loop us in, put us at the forefront of the project so we could partner with you, right? So we could partner with the business and also to manage the costs with a company like AltoVita. And that's exactly what we have been doing. When we have information ahead of time, we are able to build inventory, we are able to manage those, we could do profile matching, and provide them the solutions that best suited for the employee.
Thank you. So I see a lot of smiles, so it must be really a question that's raising a reflections, so which is really happening. What about you, Dr. Padmaja? Is it something that you are also experiencing, like a time crunch situations,
Yes.
rush request? And how do you
Yes.
deal with that?
Okay, so I think we very heavily rely on companies like Sirva, whom we work with. But yes, I know we push them to an extent that it's a make or break situation. Sorry about that, but while that's the reality, there is also a lot of work happening internally in terms of, again, partnering with the business, making sure that our global mobility people partners are setting the expectations right in the first beginning stage itself, that you can't give us crunch situations. The platform where they have to raise the request to initiate an assignment, we already have put up those requirements. You need to give us at least 30 days notice depending on the country the person is supposed to move. Fortunately, we don't have a local program, right? So a local movement program. So for all the international assignments, I think it's mandatory that we ask the business to give us 30 days minimum. If not, and if there is a crunch situation, then we give them options like having a virtual assignment till the time your visa processes and stuff like that happen. So you can start work till the time the person is ready to move. There are pushbacks that come because of it, but so be it. I mean, we have to live with it, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so we talk a lot about challenges. Basically, when we talk about winning, we need to recognize that challenges does happen. It's just really the matter about how we address them, right? So let's now shift a little bit to trend. So in a panel earlier on, we talk about the trend, but specifically in accommodations. But I would like to really see from a wider perspective, from the whole global mobility program. After COVID, everything has evolved. So what kind of trend that you see quite significantly that we need to all recognize?
Yeah, so I think one of the biggest trends that I see is re-looking at your policies, moving them to more flexible, giving more options, of course, keeping assignee experience at the center. One of the pushbacks that we always get is on the cost front, and everyone of us here acknowledge that. When we look at policies, I think one of the things we would also want to look at is, while assignee experience is at your center, just cutting costs by not providing the right accommodation may be a question. Relook at where you really want to cut costs so that your assignee experience still remains as you expect it to be. So I think that is one major trend that I see in the global mobility space. The other would be considering different types of accommodation options. Do you really need to give a temp accommodation to an employee if there is an option of providing a permanent accommodation right at the time of movement? That saves on your costs because you can have a lease right from day one, right? Of course, and that's for a long-term assignment. That's one. The third would be around using technology as much as possible to make insightful decisions. That's the third trend, and I know I just saw AltoVita's product today, but I know there are other products in the market where if we get insights and are being able to prep ourselves, that'll help a lot in terms of making the right decisions at the right time, keeping the assignee experience at the center. Yeah. Right.
So what about your view in the sustainability practices, D&I, while you are administering the policies in this region? Because Asia Pacific, we are still really trying to get into fulfilling the goals.
Absolutely, absolutely. And thanks for pointing that out, Peggy. So I think ED&I is a very, very big space right now, and you would see that when you see assignees moving, or okay, not moving, I would say when an assignee rejects an offer to move, you will see it is basically because of family considerations, right? Because you're moving the entire family. Do you have schools there? The policy probably does not allow to take your family along, but I have a special child. I need to take my child along. So what can the company do for it? Do you provide child care along, right? So these are smaller things which we will start to need, looking at. You will see a lot of assignees with disabilities, unfortunately, rejecting the offers, right? Because maybe the accommodations that we provide are not disabled friendly. Maybe the offices that we ask them to go and work from are not disabled friendly. So, but these are talents which have so much in them, and they do need that exposure, right? So, relooking at our policies, considering ED&I as a big part of it, is something which we need to start focusing on. Sustainability, of course, I know there are multiple options that we are exploring in terms of, especially from the shipment side of things, right? So, do we really need to provide shipment as an option to employees, or do we give them a furniture allowance, like you said, Mukta, right? Is furnished accommodation an option? How much can you allow in terms of your baggage allowances? So these are considerations which will help us contribute to the sustainability goal, the packaging that we provide, right? And we are Unilever. In Unilever, sustainability is such a big thing. We are relooking at even repackaging our products the way we are doing it now, right? Huge amount of plastic, huge amount of paper that goes into it. So how do you really relook at it? And that's something which is what we are now starting to focus on from the global mobility side of things. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. And Sharmila, we have a few exchange, and you are very interested around sustainability stat. So I'm sure that you also receive a lot of discussions with your client. Would you like to share a little bit more?
Yeah, definitely. So I just want to echo to what Padmaja said about D&I. So what a lot of companies have started doing is they started doing a pre-selection of the employee. So they would like to understand the background of the employee and the family. This is quite often to countries that are coming into Asia Pacific where we don't necessarily recognize same-sex marriages. So we do have that population quite a lot coming from Europe and also America. So this pre-selection, it's actually allowing them to identify such candidates and then to be able to build some flexibility to the program that they do deliver. Obviously, when it comes to visa and compliance, there is nothing much an organization could do, but what some companies tend to do is they tend to give an option to the partner to come in as a student visa, where the company is actually opting to support that. And obviously, this all depends on the talent that the company really, it's a crucial talent for company to be bringing them into countries like India, China, Singapore, Japan. So we do see that in DE&I space, and on sustainability, that has become a big topic for all of us now. Of course, it's a big thing in Europe, but even in APAC and in the industry that we are on, it's a big focus in sustainability. So what Sirva has done, Sirva previously has partnered with a lot of sustainability reporting company. We have just onboarded a new company with the hope, because previously we could only report on the household goods emissions. But now what we have been able to secure a partner who will be able to report in all the relocation journey that we do for an employee. So that would give you a holistic picture of how much emission that we could save, towards whatever goal that the organization has. So that's a big investment that we have done, and we work with all the companies that we work. Any RFPs that we do, sustainability, it's a big question mark. So if you don't check box that the sustainability question, that means that you're not going to move to the next selection of that process. So that's a big shift that we do see, and we do see even smaller companies are paying attention to sustainability. So
yeah, I think it's getting more proactive rather than reactive to address this topic. So I'm conscious of time, and I was told that we need to be really on time, but still, I want to make sure that we cover this talking point, which is very critical because we are all here in India. So I would like to really discuss about relocating to India. So it is a country when English is a first language, right? So generally speaking, we thought that relocation should be seamless when it comes to India. There shouldn't be any communications breakdown. A lot of people are like shaking their head. So because it's not necessarily the case, right? A lot of you who are really involved in the process will probably agree that it takes a lot of collaborative efforts with a lot of stakeholders. So Dr. Padmaja, you are locally based mobility expert here. What do you think and how do you feel about this statement?
Oh, well, India, I can go on and talk about India for hours together.
We just have 5 minutes.
Yeah, but I think India is a country where it may seem to be very easy to move in, but it comes as a huge cultural shock to people, especially coming from the Western world. Sorry to say, but you guys are not used to being alert. You guys are not, sorry about that, but yeah, right? You all come from a very safe zone. You're not used to crowds, so that is one big cultural shock. It takes a while for us to even prep assignees who are coming here, saying that beware, you will hear people honking all the time. Even if you're in a no honking zone, you will hear people honking, right? While jokes apart, but it's a reverse shift that you will see. Like Prasanna was mentioning, right? When a person moves from India to London, the 2-bedroom house is very different in London as compared to in India. It's the reverse when they come from the Western worlds. You're not used to see huge houses, right? But you see the budget is allowing you to provide a 4-bedroom house. So I've had an assignee who moved to Bombay, and the budgets, and he was a very senior employee, so we provided him a larger apartment. And he was like, what do I do in such a big house? And he came from South Africa, so he said, I can play cricket in this house with my son. So, you know, so it is a different ball game altogether. Prepping up the assignees is crucial. And like I was mentioning, and therefore having a buddy makes so much more sense in terms of helping them adjust, one, to the language, to the grocery shops. We have so many kirana stores around here where you will get the same stuff that you will get in a departmental store, right? But there is always a fear, shall I walk into this store or shall I not? So somebody who can really support you in doing that, it makes so much more sense, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. So Sharmila, what about besides like the buddy programs Dr. Padmaja has shared, have you seen any other mobility initiatives that companies actually implemented just to really enhance the employee experience when they're relocating to India?
Yeah, definitely, Peggy. I think what a lot of companies realize is the importance of intercultural awareness or training, we call it, with whatever it is. I think that's very key. Quite often, you know, an assignment that comes to India, either you would make it or you break it. That's a huge investment to the company. So a lot of companies have started to realize that being an English-speaking nation, but the regional nuances, the cultural differences of India, it's a melting pot for Western assignees, right? So one of my clients, what they have done, they have a huge project that's happening in Hyderabad. They were meant to be just short-term assignees, but then they realized that the short-term offering, it's not going to work for them. So they have tweaked the program to make it as an international program. And then they have made a lot of exceptions. They've allowed the family to move together. And then they also, of course, driving in India, it's not recommended for a foreigner. So they are providing chauffeur service. I think I've also seen the reverse of it, where some companies feel that, okay, it's easy to move to India. I'll just give you a lump sum of $5,000 and you go and manage everything on your own. There you go. That's like you're attracting your doom days, right? So the $5,000, he or she could just do anything with that $5,000. There's no due diligence. There is no risk mitigation. It might work in other part of the world, but not in India, because being a third world country, I think I want to stress this, India is not cheap. It's no longer cheap. The cost of living in India is expensive. So if you want to be able to provide a safety accommodation or a safe environment for your employees, you should not be cutting costs on the offerings that you're providing in India. I think Quite often there is a misconcept, sending someone to India, I will be able to save some costs from Western country, but that's not in reality. You might be spending double or triple of what you might be spending for the same assignee in a European country. So that's what we do see. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. So maybe a round of applause to the speakers. Thank you for all the sharing. I hope that there are some takeaways for everybody. We are just about another minute away, so I think that we can take 1 or 2 questions. Yes, please.
We have the mic coming to you. Just give us 1 minute, please.
Thank you so much. Hi to everyone. I think most of you know me here. The people who don't know, I'm Ragoovaran. Been in the industry, so I call myself as an industry influencer currently. So with this, I would like to ask you guys, what makes, first of all, both of you spoke very well, clear, not hurried, so we could understand, and really good that way. So when I see the topic, what makes a winning mobility program? So this is a thought which goes on me in my career with Ade. Do you think working with HR and cross-training people and finding out their interests and keep these people ready for these projects as you're guiding them as for their future development is going to really add value to this? And organizations like AltoVita and Sirva, who work on this, can work with your organization to create these training programs to accept and understand the culture, understand the thing. It doesn't have to be because of a project. It's about knowing another country, knowing another office of yours, putting in. I'm sorry, I'm going to take Fidelity example because I've been with them for some time in the last 2 days. So Fidelity has offices everywhere. So someone, they want to move from Gurgaon to them. If they have been training, cross-training, working, and so we can send Vikas out there and get Carol into here in India. Could that be, do you think that's going to help?
Surely. So one thing that we do at Unilever is we have flex projects, right? So when we have opportunities or we think that there is enough work and we don't have capacity within our own teams, we open up flex projects where we encourage not only people from the HR area, but even others. There may be somebody in the finance or somebody in the marketing who wants to come and do a flex project with us. And that gives us space to build talent, utilize it whenever there is a new opening that comes up, so we don't have to go to the market to source new people. It also solves the problem of short-term capacity build, right? And it has worked very, very well for us.
That's where I want to get.
Yeah.
Thank you for the questions, and we are running out of time. I'm sure that we have a networking session.
Yeah.
I know, time's up. So I'm sure we have a networking session. So please catch the Padmaja and Sharmila during the networking session. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much. That was a fun-filled session. Give them a huge round of applause, everybody.